Hi everyone, this is Jess from Chasing Planner Piece, and I'm going to show you how to use our budgeting spreadsheet. This is the spreadsheet that I have used myself for the past 2 years, I think, since we've started doing Barefoot Investor, and it works really well for our family. Um, you can use it even if you don't follow Barefoot Investor, but it does work really well if that is the methodology that you follow. It looks a little bit complicated, but it's actually really easy to use, and I'm just going to do a quick run through of how it works. So you have 4 tabs down the bottom, and I'm going to just quickly go through the before you start tab. There's a little bit of information up the top you can read at your leisure. Basically, this spreadsheet is designed if you have a fairly simple tax situation and your income is reasonably predictable. Down here on the left-hand side is a list of things to make sure that you don't forget to budget for. The yellow part of the spreadsheet is your daily expenses, which actually includes all your expenses that you need to pay to keep your household running over the whole year. So that includes things that might only occur once a year or that occur randomly and are unpredictable. Like medical appointments are often unpredictable. Vet bills, birthday presents, Christmas presents, etc. Those type of things you need to make sure that you've actually budgeted for in your income, in your expenditure, so that when those expenses pop up, you can have money there to pay for them. Over on the right-hand side, there's a pie chart that shows what an ideal income split might look like for you. This is what the Barefoot Investor recommends, but it might not be possible for you and your particular circumstances. So the yellow part of the pie chart is your daily expenses. So that's 60% of your income. And that also includes all your minimum repayments, like your minimum mortgage repayment, your minimum credit card repayments, etc. All of that needs to go into your daily expenses. Then 20% is for your debt payoff. So that's extra repayments on your debt so that you can pay them off faster. The Barefoot Investor calls that your fire extinguisher account. Then the pink section is your fun money or your splurge money. We split that 10% between the 2 adults in the house so that we each get 5%. And then the green section is your savings or your smile account, which is for saving up for big ticket items like holidays and renovations. Now, up here, the blue section is a calculator to determine your annual income after tax. The budgeting spreadsheet needs you to have a figure that is your annual income after tax. You might be able to see that on your last year's tax return, or you can use this calculator. So this works on the assumption that your employer will withhold tax from your pay and pay you the after-tax amount into your bank account, and that's generally fairly accurate, and that at the end of the year you're not going to have a massive tax bill that you need to be putting money aside for, or sort of, a huge refund or anything like that. So working off that assumption, you can calculate your annual income after tax. If you type in here how frequently you get paid, let's say you get paid weekly, and let's say the amount of money that hits your bank account after your employer has withheld tax is $800 a week. That calculates your annual income at $41,600. You need to write that down or copy it and paste it into this spreadsheet here, which is your budget spreadsheet. So 41,600 goes in this column here, which is your yearly income. On this spreadsheet, you can only type figures into the shaded columns, and you can rename the income, weekly expense, fortnightly expenses, etc. The rest of the figures, if you try and type something in there, it will tell you that those cells are protected because they have formulas in them that make calculations for you. So I'm going to rename this income one as Jess, and I'm going to also put in a second source of income from Fred, and I'm going to say that that is $50,000 a year after tax. You might have other sources of income here, like rental property, government payments, shares, etc. So you need to figure out a rough estimate of the annual income you would gain from those things after tax. If you have any sort of questions regarding your tax, you need to speak to an accountant. As I said, this is just sort of a rough guide to your household budget. Okay, daily expenses. So this is where you list all the things that you need to keep your household running. So the first one that comes to mind under weekly expenses is groceries. And let's say that's $200 a week. So that will calculate fortnightly, monthly, quarterly, and yearly expenditure. And you'll notice over here on the right-hand side, your financial summary will start changing the figures up there as well. So you can go through and you can add in extra expenditure. I'm just going to add some in for examples. It's important to think about all your expenditure. So don't forget things like Netflix, etc. Quarterly expenses might be electricity. Annual expenses, we've talked a bit about that. So things like insurance for the house and contents. What you'll find is as you scroll down the bottom, there will be a figure that is your total daily expenses and also a percentage that is your percentage of your income. So if we flick back over to here, you're sort of aiming for around 60% there. At the moment, that's showing as 26%. The percentage will change slightly for the weekly, fortnightly, monthly, and quarterly, but really yearly is the important one to keep an eye on here. You can add in all your expenditure here, all your expenses. That can take a little while, and you want to try and keep that figure under 60%. Now, if we scroll over here to your financial summary table, your total income is on the top row there, and that is populated by the income that we put in at the beginning. Your expenditure is populated here under the daily expenses. And then savings, debt payoff, and fun are actually editable. You can edit the percentage. So on this example, we're only spending 26% of our income on daily expenses. Normally it would be much higher. So you can change your savings figure to say 20%. That makes your total outgoings 76%. Your total outgoings need to be under 100%. If they go over 100%, you're over budget. And here's a little summary that tells you at the moment you're under budget by $22,000 a year or 24%. So this is a bit that's a little bit complicated, but basically you're just trying to make that figure equal 100 or less. The 86% there is under 100, so you're under budget. If I make my savings figure 30%, let's say I make it 35%, it will say I'm over budget by 1% or $840 a year. So you need to then go through and change those figures until you get something that's under 100%. So under budget by 9%. This bit is the most complicated part of the spreadsheet, but once you get your head around it, it's quite easy to use. So if we've allocated 25% of our income to savings, that means that we're putting in $440 a week into our savings account, $880 a fortnight into our savings account, etc. And there's also figures there for how much money should be going into your fund money account and how much money you should be putting into your debt payoff. Over here, there is a little graph that shows you. So your total income here is represented here. So it's just over $90,000. And then it's color coded for how much on each part of the graph, how much of your total income is expended on these things. So at the moment, daily expenses is $23,000, savings is $22,000, etc., etc. And then there is the expense tracking, which I'm going to show you in a separate video because I'm about to run out of time.